Today, I'm going to show you how to make a beautiful scrapbook image in Affinity Photo. If you'd like to follow along with me, I've left a link for today's photos in the video description. Now, you can make your canvas whatever size you want. I made mine 1080 by 1350. Let's start by cutting out our model images. I have 4 images that I'll use, so I'm going to press Command or Control C to copy each image. Then going back to our main document, I'll press Command or Control V to paste it in. And I'll repeat this for each image. Because all of these images are pretty big, I'm just going to zoom out here, and I'll select all of these layers by holding Shift and clicking on the last one. Then using the Move tool, I'm just going to shrink these images down. I'll hold Shift on my keyboard to keep all the layers proportional. And now you can see they fit perfectly into our document. So with our images in place, next I'm going to go ahead and cut these out. Because we're going for a scrapbook look, you can breathe a sigh of relief because we actually want to roughly cut these out. No feathered edges or blending. We're going to use the pen tool to create sharp edges as if someone used scissors to cut these pictures out. I'm just going to uncheck each of these layers. And starting with the first one, I'll select it. Then I'm going to grab the pen tool. Now, because we're just roughly cutting these out, this is actually going to be pretty easy. All you need to do is click to lay down your first point. And then to make a nice straight line, I'm going to click here. Then I'll click here. And I want to keep the yellow wall behind her. I think it looks like a cool detail, a nice color there. So what I'm going to do is click and drag to make a curved line. You can see that whichever direction you drag it in, that's the way that it will curve. And then to finish off this curve, I'll click on the first point to close it up. Then I'm going to come to the top and click on Mask. And now you can see that we've cut out our first image. If you ever want to go back and adjust any of these nodes, all you need to do is click on this little gray triangle here, and then click on Node tool. The Node tool lets you click and drag on any of these. So for example, I think I want more of her arm showing, so I'll drag that down. And you can go ahead and play with any of these points to extend the background or do whatever you need to do. I'll go ahead and select the Move tool. And I'm going to select the main image layer here, and I'm just going to move this to the side for now. And I'll close up this group. So next, I'm going to select the next image and check it on. And then I'm going to use the pen tool to cut out this one. Since I just explained what I'm doing, I'm just going to quickly cut out the rest of these. Again, no worries if it's not a perfect selection. Once you finish the trace, click on Mask, then select the image layer and use the Move tool to set it to the side. Go ahead and repeat this process for each image. If you ever mess up, feel free to press Command or Control Z. That will undo the last point that you clicked. Now, I did save the hardest one for last. Because there's more curves and folds going on, you'll probably need to click more points for this one. Then go ahead and mask, select the layer, and use the Move tool. That was the most tricky part, so if you got that, the rest of this should be pretty easy. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move these images to place them where I want them. We'll definitely adjust this later on as we add more images in, but this will give us a good starting point. So first, I'm going to turn off snapping. If you have this turned on, you might have some issues moving them around freely. Then I'm just going to go ahead and click on each layer and enlarge it and place it where I want it. I want this one to be pretty large because I really like the colors and the pose that she has here. Yeah, I want to move this one, make it a little bigger, and I want her to overlap a little bit here. There we go. I want her to be over the shoe, so I'm going to take this layer, and I'm actually just going to close up all of these groups, and then I'm going to click and drag it above. I guess I need to click it to the top. There we go. So now she's overlapping on top. So this is just a rough placement of all of these images, but I think this is going to look pretty good. So as I was placing them, I noticed that this image has some extra background showing through in between her arms, and I want to remove that. So to do that, first I'm going to select her layer. Then I'm going to use the pen tool, and I'm just going to come in here and place down points, tracing out this background so that I can remove it. Now, instead of pressing mask, I'm going to press on selection. This has created a little selection here, and now I can use the eraser tool and just erase right in that selection. Pretty easy. I'll press Command or Control D to deselect. And let's do that one more time over here. And Command or Control D to deselect. I think that looks a lot better. Another thing that I noticed is that the colors in this top image don't quite match the others. It's a lot darker and we have a lot more blue tones in our shadows. I want to make it so that these colors match the other images better. So first, I'm going to add a color balance adjustment. And I'm going to click and drag this down and to the right of that image that I'm trying to adjust. So now I can go ahead and change the colors in the shadows, midtones, and highlights. So starting in the shadows, I want to decrease the blues that I see here. So I'm going to go ahead and add a bit of red. I'll go ahead and add a bit of magenta. And I think I'll leave the yellows and blues alone. Then I'll go to the midtones, and let's go ahead and warm these up as well. So I'll add some red, add a little bit of magenta, and I think this time I'll add a little bit of yellow. And for the highlights, we'll do the same, just a little bit of red. I don't think I'll add magenta this time, and I'll add some yellow. So you can see that already has improved this image. You can see a lot more red tones and less blue. I think I want to brighten the image more, so I'm going to add a curves adjustment. And I'm going to raise the spline to brighten this up. You can see that looks more similar to these other images now. And I think that looks pretty good, so we'll leave it at that. Giving all of our images the same colors like this will make it easier in the end, because since they all have the same colors now, we can put one adjustment on top of all of them, and it will affect all of the colors in the same way. Next, let's bring in some backgrounds. I'm going to go ahead and select the bottom layer, and let's take a look at these. I'll press Command or Control C to copy this image, then Command or Control V to paste it in. And I'll repeat that for the other image. Now both of these backgrounds have been placed above one of our model images, so I'll hold Shift to select them both, and then I'm going to drag them below so that they're backgrounds. Now these images are quite large, so using the Move tool, I'll go ahead and shrink them down. So for this first sunset image, I want this to be up here in the corner with the sun behind this model here. And then this tree image, I want this to take up pretty much the whole image down here. There we go. Now you can see some sharp edges here from the sunset image where it's overlapping with the tree image. To create more of a seamless collage effect, I'm going to cut out the sunset image. So I'm just going to select that over here. And then using the pen tool, I'm going to go ahead and trace like that. So you can see that I purposefully crossed it right here where these two images are overlapping, so you won't see a seam. Then I'll go ahead and press mask. And now you can see that tree over here, and we no longer have that sharp edge of the sunset image. I really like this tree image because it has these golden tones, and I really want to add more golden elements to bring out those colors. However, this sunset image doesn't look very golden, and I want to change that, even though I really think this red color is beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and select the sunset image, and I'm going to add an HSL adjustment, which will really easily help us to change the colors here. I'll drag it down and to the right of the sunset so that that's the only image that's affected. And then I'm going to go ahead and make these colors look a bit more golden. There we go. I like that these colors now match this yellow wall a bit better, and this color over here. It makes it look like the sunset and the tree are all part of the same image. So this looks really good so far, and I think this is a great base for our scrapbook effect. And the next thing I'm going to do is just add in a few more little details to really sell this effect. So we're going to start by adding in some cutout letters. Now, I found a fabulous website for this, and I'll leave it linked in the video description. This is a website from the National Library of Poland. They've collected images of letters from books, posters, and maps, and created this website. All you need to do is click on Create Your Typo. Then you can type in a word. I'm going to type in golden. Then press Create Your Typo. Now you have this beautiful array of random letters that you can use for your image. And if you like a letter, all you need to do is right-click on the individual letter and then save the image. You'll need to do this for each letter that you want to use. If you don't like how this turned out, you can click here to get a whole new set of letters. And you might need to do this a few times. I noticed that while some of these letters are very beautiful, they're a little difficult to read. If you're really struggling to find a specific letter, all you need to do is go back. And then instead of typing the whole word, all you need to do is click on the letter multiple times. And then click Create Your Typo. And now you can see so many different types of that letter that you can choose from. So I've included these letter images in the video description, but feel free to find your own. So coming up here, I'm just going to copy each of these letters with Command or Control C, and then I'll paste them into our document with Command or Control V. All of these letters have been placed as a child layer, so I'm just going to select them all with Shift, and I'm going to click and drag these to the top of our layers so that they sit above every single layer. Then I'm going to go ahead and select each individual letter to move it in place. Now, right now these letters are a bit too large, so I'll select them all by holding Shift and clicking. And then I can go ahead and resize them while holding Shift. There we go. The next thing I want to do is I want to adjust their size and also tilt them to make this look more random, like they were cut out and pasted on. Sometimes you might really like a letter, but the color doesn't look right for the collage. That's all right because we can easily change up the colors with an HSL adjustment. So starting with this letter D right here, I want to make it more of a golden color. So I'll add an HSL adjustment. Then I'll make it a child layer to that D letter there. And then we can adjust the colors to make it more golden. There we go. And you can do this for each individual letter to make it look better for the image. So this N looks a bit too bright compared to the other letters. So I'm going to add a curves adjustment to that. Then I'll just darken it, making it a child layer there. So I really like how all of these letters look. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to select all of the letters and then I'll group them with Command or Control G. Then I'm going to add another curves adjustment. And I'm going to make this a child layer to the group so that only the letters are affected. And I'm just going to brighten them all up. That way it's easier to see them. Now it's time for some final details. I want to add a couple of golden objects to enhance the golden theme. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in 2 golden objects by copying and pasting them into our document. I'll select both of these by holding Shift, and I'm going to drag them to the top of everything for now, and I'll go ahead and close up that letters group. Then I can go ahead and resize these by holding Shift and dragging that in. And now we can do our pen tool cutout technique. So I'll select the top layer, and using the pen tool, I'm going to go ahead and drag around this ribbon. And once you've closed that up, press Mask. Select the layer, and using the move tool, you can go ahead and move this in place. I'm going to select the next layer here, and I mostly just want this round part, so no worries about selecting the entire object. So using the pen tool, I'll go ahead and trace around, clicking and dragging to make curved edges. So I want to place this here in the background. So I need to figure out where to click and drag this so that it appears behind that subject. All right, I think that looks pretty good. And now for this ribbon, I'm just going to shrink this down a little bit. And I kind of want this to act as a frame for this model here, and to cover up her pant leg. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Now that we have everything placed, it's time to add some final adjustments. I'm going to start by adding a few textures on top of everything. So I'll select the top layer here. Then I'm going to bring in our first texture, this paper texture. I'll press Command or Control C to copy it, then Command or Control V to paste it in. And I'm going to go ahead and resize this and turn it. And I want these folds to show up on our document just to make it look more paper-like. Before I blend this into our document, I first want to desaturate it because I think these brown tones will really mess with the colors of our image. So I'll add a black and white adjustment, and I'll set that as a child layer to the paper. Then selecting the paper layer again, I'm going to change the blend mode so that this blends with our document. Now there are quite a few blend modes that look pretty cool for this, but I'm going to choose multiply. You can easily see that fold in the paper there and one up here, and I think that looks really nice. And I'm going to bring in our next texture. Now this texture is meant to add kind of a dusty effect to the image. So I'll press Command or Control C to copy that, and then Command or Control V to paste it in. And I'm going to make this a bit smaller. Now, because this is already desaturated, we don't need to add a black and white adjustment. All we need to do is change the blend mode. And I'm going to change the blend mode to soft light. You can see this is a pretty intense effect, so feel free to lower the opacity until you think it looks good. Alright, we're on to our last step, which is changing the colors of the whole image. To start, I'm going to add a gradient map. I only want to add 2 colors, so I'll select the center color and then press delete. And now for the shadows, I'm going to make them a nice blue color. And for the highlights over here, I'm going to make this a nice golden color. Then I'm going to change the blend mode to soft light. And you can see this looks pretty intense, so I'm going to lower the opacity. And you can see that these colors just add a bit of a cinematic effect to this collage. And I think that looks pretty cool. And there we have it. Using a few simple tricks, here's what we were able to do in Affinity Photo. You can do so much with this collage technique, so I just want to give you a few more ideas to inspire you. First, here's an adventure-themed collage. I used images from the outdoors and the word explore to enhance the theme. In this next one, I did a color theme. So similar to the gold collage that we made today, I found images that were green and combined them to create this collage. And here's one last example for you. In this one, I had wedding invitation in mind, and I combined images to get a romantic but fun look. So you can see that once you get the hang of this technique, there's really endless possibilities to create fun works of art. I hope you enjoy creating your own collages, and I'll see you in the next Affinity Revolution tutorial.